One of our favorite shows of the week is Questions with L.A. Marzulli. I am your intrepid host, L.A. Marzulli. We'll get into your questions and so much more, but first, a word from our trusted sponsor. Have you started to notice an increase in the appearance of wrinkles, fine lines, bags under your eyes, or other usual signs of aging? It may be more than just stress. Wrinkles and other marks of aging are one of the top signs that your collagen levels are low. It becomes more vital every year that you get older to supplement collagen into your diet for the sake of your skin's health. As you've gotten older, for example, you may have found that your skin isn't as strong. Whether you're in your 20s or 90s, you can experience the healthy aging effects collagen has on your skin with the help of this multi-collagen powder that I love to use. Folks, I've noticed a reduction in the appearance of wrinkles and fine lines. My skin has once again regained its youthful glow, hydration, and elasticity. Take a look at this mug, folks. Also, although I originally bought it to rejuvenate my skin, I was shocked to find that it also improved the health of my hair, nails, and joints as well. Folks, I want you to try it as well and experience the amazing effects that I've noticed in myself. Get a bag today for 51% off, plus receive several free bonuses before their spring sale ends by going to healthwithla.com. That's healthwithla.com, and get ready to look your best this new year 2023. Folks, 60-day money-back guarantee. 5 types of collagen you need from 4 different sources. For every order today, we will donate a nutritious meal to a hungry child in your honor through our partnership with NoKidHungry.org. I mean, you can't beat this stuff. It's non-GMO. It's free of artificial flavors, colors, preservatives, sweeteners, and gluten-free antibiotics. Folks, this stuff is great. Go to healthwithla.com. That's healthwithla.com. Before I get into this, and some people are which is really great, they're taking to heart my admonition, keep your questions pithy. 1 line, 2 lines at the most, keep them pithy. So here's a really pithy question for you. This is from Chris. The Silestani chulpas. For those of you who don't know what they are towers, but they're not towers that are perfectly cylindrical. They're towers that are like this. They're narrow at the bottom, and as you go up, the radius changes. So if you want to make something really hard, that's really hard to make. And it's made out of basalt stone, which again is really hard rock, and I don't think you can cut it with a copper chisel. So here's the deal. It's conical shaped like this, and it goes narrow and then wide at the base. So we did a show on Tuesday on the Trail of the Nephilim. Let's talk about the Silestani Tower. It's right here. Let's talk about that. Pseudo-archaeologists. We're labeled pseudo-archaeologists because we have questions. So you're trying to tell us that these are burial chambers. Nonsense. No, they're not. And if the Inca built them, then show us how the Inca built it. Quit telling us that the Inca did this with copper chisels if they can't do it. It's one thing to make a round tower. It's another thing to make it where the diameter is changing as you go up. Give me a break. And we know from the Silestani, it's actually in my book, On the Trail of the Nephilim, if you want to do a deep dive on that. Once again, hats off to Brian Forrester and his lovely wife, Irene, who took us there and showed us that. It was an amazing thing. And oh, here's a sidebar. And I'll never get to the rest of the way I'm going. When Chase Klotsky walked into one of the foundations of the chulpas, right? She had all of this equipment on. All the batteries were instantly drained. Explain that to me, Mr. Pseudo-archaeologist. Something is going on. There's a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world. So, do you think the Silestani chulpas could have been built to create sound? To me, they resemble a flute. Wind could enter the door, and then the depressions inside of the stonework could be there to make certain sounds. Thanks, Chris. Chris, anything's possible. I don't know. I think that it may have something to do with the ancient grid system. Complete speculation on my part. Whatever it was, whatever these things were, something cataclysmic happened and blew them apart. Or so it seems. More work needs to be done on the Silestani chulpas. It's one of the strangest places I have ever been. So you know what? Quit calling us pseudo-archaeologists and first show us how the Inca were able to do that. And if you can't show us, then quit telling us. Quit lying to us and telling us that the Inca were master stone builders. On the way up to the Silestani chulpas, there is an Inca burial chamber, which mimics the Silastani Chulpas. It's very crude, doesn't look anything like the Silastani towers that are there. Nothing like it at all. I could spend the rest of the day on that, so I won't. Hey, LA, I appreciate your work. Have you seen the Project Blue Book series on NBC? Do you think such shows are also a form of disclosure to get people used to the idea of aliens? This is from Eddie. Eddie, absolutely, all day long. And see, the thing is, when you're watching TV, this is what you're doing. When you're in a movie theater, this is what you're doing. Popcorn. That's what you're doing. You're watching something and there are no, you're not analyzing, you're experiencing through the medium of film and sound and light and everything that goes into film and acting, you're experiencing something which is impacting you, the watcher, the viewer. It's absolutely conditioning, unless there's good discussion after we watch something like this. I've seen Project Blue Book. It's a really cool series. What can I tell you? It's, I think, and let me just circle back here. Yes, I think it is a form of conditioning to get us used to the idea of disclosure. This is from Tamara. Missouri Discovery Giant Star Fort at Fem Osage. I've seen this is on it's on YouTube, it's on Dutch Sense. I have seen this. It's making the rounds. I find it very interesting. Star Fort, was it made by Native Americans or something else? Why is it that that's what's going on? And of course, they talk about the Serpent Mound. Look, something else is going on in the Americas. Quit telling us that and here's another one. Quit telling us that the Shawnee built the Serpent Mound when we show in our film, On the Trail of the Nephilim, I think it's episode 1 or 2, that the Shawnee did not build the Serpent Mound. Now, since then, Chief Wallace has done a complete 180, completely flip-flop and said, oh, now we built it. Because what's at stake? If they're not First Nation and there's somebody here before them, then they're not First Nation. So what's the truth? What's the truth? The Serpent Mound is built on an 18-and-a-half-year lunar cycle. It shows the solstices and the equinoxes. The serpent is in the act of swallowing an egg, of destroying the egg, which in my opinion hails back to the Genesis 3:15 narrative. So I'll say it again. This is not pseudo-archaeology. There are questions that really need to be answered and not fudged. Remember, I'll end it by saying this. When we were at the Grave Creek Mound, we discovered a photograph, and maybe I'll show it if somebody reminds me, like John Adam, to show it in the next On the Trail of the Nephilim. Because I've been down this before, and I offered, I think, a $1,500 reward if someone could show us or connect us to the guy who did the Photoshop on the picture. So this is what happened. We're there at Grave Creek's Mound. Peggy and Fritz come walking out, Fritz Zimmerman, of the museum, and there's a display there. And on the display is a lithograph from Harper's Magazine, we believe, from like the 19th century, 1860, 1870, we don't know. And at the time, the Grave Creek Mound, there was a museum that you could walk in and see it. And the fact that the dirt was so compacted that they didn't need to shore it up. How does that work? Show me how Native Americans could compact the soil like that. Just show me. Just show me how that's done, first of all. There's a giant skeleton on display there. There's a woman with her child in a big hoop skirt, which goes down to her shoes. There's a guy looking at some artifacts or oddity on the right side of the picture, facing the picture. He's got a stovepipe hat on, right? What the heck is that? And there in the center is a giant skeleton, which we photographed the picture from Harper's. So an archaeologist, I won't mention the guy's name, he's welcome to come on the show. So he did a rebuttal. But guess what? Someone photoshopped that photograph. They photoshopped that photograph and they made the skeleton smaller. It's all different. I'll up the ante to $2,000. I'll give you $2,000 if you can point me to, and it's factual, to the guy who photoshopped that photograph. I want to know, because it's time to hold these people's feet to the fire. That's an outright lie to the American people. Moving right along. I'm curious to why I never hear you talk about the Indian face mound in North Dakota. Have you ever noticed on the forehead of that mound is a mound that looks like a face of a horned man? Ruth, I did a deep dive on it. There's only so much time. I haven't been there yet. Maybe in the future we can go there. If you live in North Dakota, please shoot me an email if you know about this mound, if it's there and you can tell me about it. If there's Native Americans, First Nation people who would come on the record and talk about it, lamarzulliprivate@gmail.com. lamarzulliprivate@gmail.com. This is from Mark. Mr. Marzulli, I'm curious as if there have been any 3D renderings of what facial features might have looked like the elongated skulls. If so, where might that be found? Thank you. God bless you for all you are doing. Yes, go to Marcia Moore. Marcia, M-A-R-C-I-A. Marcia Moore. I think it's just Marcia Moore. Just Google her name. She's done wonderful reconstruction of what they may have looked like. Some of that is in here in the On the Trail of a Nephilim series. I'm not sure she's kind of painted them as very benevolent looking. I think they were more ferocious looking, but I'm reading into it. We don't know what they actually look like. Although I have seen mummies with the skin on them. And to see something like that coming at you in the daytime or at night would certainly be very strange. Orkney Island, this is from Harry. Hello, L.A. and Peggy. I've been following you for some time. Have been blessed by your research. I'm going to Orkney Island in June. Very cool. In your opinion, is the prehistoric ruins part of a Nephilim stronghold? I am so excited to finally visit one. This is from Celeste Neely, from Harry and Celeste. So here's the deal. With all this stuff, we have to be careful. And is it a Viking habitation? Don't know. Is it something else? Don't know. Is it one of the Nephilim tribes moving from this western expansion from the Promised Land out to Cyprus and then Sardinia, right? I mean, we know it's there, I should say, from Cyprus to Gozo, to Malta, to Sardinia, to Majorca, to Minorca, to Spain, to Portugal, to France, up into England, finally over to the Americas. There definitely seems to be this expansion that comes across, and we find connectivity. I've never done anything with this, but we have connectivity from what we discovered in Portugal, which will blow your mind when we finally release it. That was done in 2019. That's how far behind we are in our efforts. So you've got to be careful. Not every site is a Nephilim site. I get that. But there are certain markers. So when you look at gigantic stones, menhirs on Orkney, which are placed like that, it begs, just like we see at Tel Gezer. By the way, we're going to Israel in October 8th to the 19th. Plenty of room on the tour. I think we're up to about 28 people. I'll know more when I get a head count. Plenty of room, lamarzulli.net, lamarzulli.net. We will show you some standing stones at Tel Gezer. We're going to visit that. That, there's no doubt, is a Nephilim stronghold. There's no doubt about it. The Horites were there. It is an ancient Canaanite city. So we know. So the standing stones are there. What the heck are they doing there? Who put them in? And why does it just vanish? So on the island of Orkney, we see the same type of structures going down, just like we talked about in our crop circle film at Silbury Hill in England. Why is it that that mound looks exactly like the mounds that we have in the United States? And the thing is huge. Anyway, it all converges. It all goes like this, in my opinion. So, what do you think about this? Serpentine-looking landforms in St. Louis. Take a look. Let us know what you think. It's all about the serpent. Always about the serpent. Always. Why is that? And by the way, just a shout out. That's from Grace. Thank you, Grace. Appreciate it. It's always a serpent. No matter where you go on the globe, it's a serpent. Serpent iconography is used in petroglyphs, in the gland. Like the serpent mound. It's everywhere. You see them painted on caves. You see it in the petroglyphs. It's always the serpent. It hails back to Genesis 3:15, in my opinion. This is from Jeremy. Where did Cain's wife come from? Here's the deal. In the narrative, we only know that Adam and Eve gave birth to, Cain and Abel, and then finally after that, right? So and then that's the genealogy that the Bible is concerned of. But we don't know how old Cain and Abel were, per se, right? Before all this happened. Cain got his wife, who was actually his sister, in our opinion. And theologians believe that. Adam and Eve were alive for how many hundreds of years, close to 900 or whatever, before they finally die, before they perish, before they die. So they're in marriage and they're reproducing. And at that time, the genome before the flood was different than it was now. So in my opinion, Cain married his sister. So what Jesus looks like. Greetings, LA. Someday I will be allowed to give my testimony. However, it's not mine. The Lord said he will tell me when. If you desire to see what our Lord and Savior Jesus looks like, go to the movie about heaven. Hold on. It's not Heaven Can Wait. But the woman's name, the child artist, is Akanani. And we show that at the end of the movie. There's a little girl who met Yeshua and returned. She has painted a picture. When you take that picture that Akiani painted and you superimpose it over the shroud, right, it looks exactly like it. I want to show you something here because I have it. Let me just go here and I will show you in a second what I believe he is talking about. And thank you so much for writing in. By the way, if you've got a question, questions at lamarzulli.net, questions at lamarzulli.net. And this is what we are looking at here. This is what he looked like, in my opinion. Look at the shroud right there. There's another picture I want to show you in a second. And this is the actual picture of Akanani that she superimposed, that someone took her picture and superimposed it on the Shroud of Turin. I'm going to zoom in here so you guys can see it. Here we go. So they took the picture and they superimposed it on the shroud. They took Akanani's picture and superimposed it on the shroud. This is from Eric. He writes, is Cardophilus still alive and roaming the earth today? And this is when you go on and you Google that name. Cardophilus was an Armenian, a man formerly called Cardophilus, who claimed he had been Pontius Pilate's doorkeeper and had struck Jesus on his way to Calvary, urging him to go faster. Jesus allegedly replied, I go, and you will wait till I return. Cardophilus was later baptized by Joseph and lived piously among Christian clergy. Good story. There was a novel that I was working on years ago, and I never finished it, never published it. It was based on the Gospel of John, where it says, what is it to you if I say to this man, pointing at John, this is when Jesus is talking to Peter, okay, and telling Peter how he's going to die. They'll take you a place where you don't want to go, and Peter says, what about him? And Jesus says something very cryptic. What is it to you if I say that man will basically live or tarry till I come again, will live until I return? So I was going to write a novel about that, and the premise was that John was alive even today and still on the earth managing the Lord's affairs. Of course, that's a novel. It's a fictional account. And wouldn't it be interesting to write that? Anyway, that's all the questions I have for. Don't forget, we've got our crop circle video and all of our UFO film series that you can go to streaming.lamarzulli.net, streaming.lamarzulli.net, and avail yourself of all 5. We are working on number 6, which I will now announce it, will be on cattle mutilations. We just returned from Colorado. We were filming there all last week, and got some great stuff. Got some really great stuff, and I think you'll find that fascinating. That'll be number 6. We'll have that out in June for you. I am still working on Trail of a Nephilim number 8, which is out of place artifacts. So lots going on here. If you've got a question, make it pithy. Shoot us an email at or questions at lamarzulli.net, questions at lamarzulli.net. That's all the time I have for. Thanks, folks. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with another Supernatural Confrontations.